untold truth behind Medusa. We all think we know her story, don't we? The monster with snakes for hair. The face so terrifying it could turn a man to stone. A creature so vile she was hunted down and beheaded by the hero Perseus. That's the myth. The one that's been shouted from the rooftops for thousands of years. But what if I told you that story is wrong? Not just a little exaggerated, but a complete and total lie. A cover-up spun by the very gods who created the tragedy. What if the real story of Medusa isn't a tale of a monster, but of a victim? A story not of evil, but of profound injustice. A story that begins not in a monster's lair, but in a place of breathtaking beauty, with a woman who was once considered the most stunning mortal in the world. This is the real story of Medusa, and it changes everything. Before the snakes, before the fear, there was a young woman named Medusa. And she wasn't just pretty. In a world filled with stories of gorgeous nymphs and goddesses, Medusa's mortal beauty was spoken of with awe. Her hair, they said, was her crowning glory, a flowing, silken cascade that caught the light like woven dark water. It was so magnificent that suitors would travel from distant lands just for a chance to see her. But Medusa's heart wasn't set on princes or fame. She had a deep, sincere devotion. She chose to serve Athena, the goddess of wisdom, strategy, and righteous war. Medusa became one of Athena's most devoted priestesses, taking a sacred vow of celibacy to serve in the goddess's temple. Think about that for a second. She wasn't hiding in a cave. She was in a place of high honor, respected, dedicating her life to something she believed in. She tended the sacred flame, kept the temple pure, and offered prayers. Her life was one of purpose, peace, and piety. This is the first key to the real story. Medusa was devout. She had given herself wholly to Athena. And in the ancient world, a vow to a goddess, especially one of Athena's power, was unbreakable. It was a cosmic contract. And this is where our villain enters. But it's not who you think. One day, while Medusa was performing her rites alone in the temple, a presence filled the sacred space. It wasn't Athena. The air grew heavy, charged with a different kind of power, not wise and strategic, but raw, possessive, and impulsive. It was Poseidon, god of the seas, earthquakes, and, well, let's be frank, a god with a notorious reputation. The stories are full of tales where Poseidon's affections were less about love and more about taking what he wanted. He saw Medusa, in all her innocent beauty, in the temple of another goddess, and he decided he must have her. Now, picture Medusa's horror. This is her sanctum, the house of her goddess. She is sworn to celibacy, and one of the most powerful beings in existence is advancing on her. She had no power to fight him, no army to call. What could a mortal priestess do against the god who held the oceans in his fist? She did the only thing she could. She ran. She pleaded. She begged Poseidon to respect the sanctity of the temple, to respect her vows to Athena. She likely called upon her goddess for protection. But Poseidon was unmoved. To him, her vows were irrelevant. Her devotion was a trifle. In his own brother's temple, for Zeus was Athena's father, Poseidon assaulted Medusa. This was more than a crime. It was a series of catastrophic blasphemies. A violation of a sacred space. A violation of a holy vow. And a profound act of disrespect to Athena herself. And where was Athena in Medusa's moment of desperate need? Where was the protection of the goddess she had served with every fiber of her being? The goddess was about to arrive, but not as a savior. The temple fell silent after Poseidon left. The damage was done. And then, the air crackled with a new, icy power. Athena appeared. Medusa, broken and terrified, must have felt a surge of hope. Finally, her goddess was here. She would bring justice. She would punish Poseidon for his defilement. She would comfort her loyal servant. Athena looked at Medusa. She looked at the desecrated temple. She saw the evidence of Poseidon's crime, and her divine wrath ignited, but not against Poseidon. You see, challenging Poseidon, her powerful uncle, meant divine conflict. A war among Olympians. It was messy, difficult, and politically risky. But a mortal priestess? A mortal was simple. A mortal could be held responsible. Athena's logic was perverse, brutal, and tragically common in myths. The temple was defiled. Medusa was in the temple. Therefore, Medusa must have allowed it to happen. She must have tempted Poseidon. Her legendary beauty was the weapon, and thus she was to blame for the gods' lack of control. The punishment Athena devised was not just cruel, it was poetically sadistic. It took the very essence of Medusa and twisted it into a curse. Her glorious hair, the source of so much admiration, became a hissing nest of venomous snakes. Her beautiful face, which once inspired awe, was twisted into a visage so horrifying that the mere sight of it would turn any living creature to stone. Her gentle eyes, which once held devotion, now held the petrifying power of the curse. Athena didn't just make her a monster. She made her alone. The curse ensured Medusa could never be looked upon again. No comfort, no companionship, no love. She was exiled to a remote, sunless island at the edge of the world, a place called Sarpedon. She couldn't be around anyone she might accidentally kill. She was transformed from a social, pious woman into the ultimate solitary creature. Think about the psychological torture. Every time she saw her reflection in water, she saw the monster. Every time a bird fell from the sky, turned to stone because it flew too close, she was reminded of her curse. The gods had, in one act, made her the victim and then punished her for being one. They made her the villain in her own story. For years, Medusa lived in her isolated prison. The stories say her sisters, Steno and Euryale, who were immortal monsters themselves, sometimes joined her. But even their companionship was a reminder of what she'd become. They were born Gorgons, she was made one. This is where the monster narrative truly took root. What would you do if every living thing that approached you died? You tried to scare them away. The lair, filled with stone statues, wasn't a trophy room. It was a graveyard. It was the tragic, unavoidable result of her existence. Sailors, adventurers, and so-called heroes seeking fame would hear of the terrible Gorgon and come to kill her. They weren't saving anyone. They were invading the home of a woman who just wanted to be left alone, and they paid the ultimate price for their arrogance. Medusa wasn't hunting villages. She wasn't terrorizing the countryside. She was trapped on her island, a prisoner of a curse she did nothing to deserve. The terror she inspired was a wall she never asked to build. And then, the final act of exploitation arrived. His name was Perseus. Perseus, the son of Zeus, was given a supposedly heroic quest by a wicked king to bring back the head of Medusa. It was meant to be a suicide mission. But Perseus didn't embark on a fair fight. He got a divine care package, a literal cheat code from the gods who had created this mess. They turned her into a monster, hunted her down, and then used her corpse as a trophy and a tool. The cycle of abuse was complete. So, what is the real story of Medusa? It is not a monster myth. It is a story of victim blaming of the highest order. It is a story of how the powerful punish the vulnerable to avoid confronting other powerful abusers. It is a story that asks us, who do we call a monster, and why? Is it the woman with a terrifying face, cursed and exiled? Or is it the gods who violated, cursed, and murdered her for their own convenience and glory? For centuries, Medusa's image was used as a protective symbol, an apotropaic device to ward off evil. Isn't that ironic? The ultimate victim became a symbol for protection. Perhaps on some level, people understood. They saw in her story a warning against the cruelty of arbitrary power. Today, Medusa has been reclaimed as a symbol for survivors of assault. Her visage no longer just represents terror, but a fierce, defensive rage. The snakes are not just a curse, but a crown of defiance. She represents a woman who, despite being utterly failed by every power meant to protect her, possessed a power so potent that even in death, the gods coveted it. She was never the villain. She was the heart of the tragedy. And that is the real story of Medusa, the story you were never told. It's a story that's been hidden in plain sight for millennia, in the fragments of older poems and the chilling logic of the myth itself. If this changes the way you see mythology, if it makes you look at these ancient stories with new, questioning eyes, then you're thinking the right way. History and myth are written by the winners. But sometimes, by pulling on the threads of a story, we can find a much truer, more human tapestry underneath. I want to hear what you think. Did knowing the backstory change your feelings about Medusa, Perseus, or Athena? Let's have a real conversation in the comments below. If you want more deep dives into the real stories behind the myths, the hidden tragedies, the covered-up scandals, and the victims history tried to turn into monsters, then you need to subscribe and hit that bell icon. We're just getting started pulling back the curtain. Every like, share, and subscription helps this channel grow and bring these forgotten truths to light. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes, the real monster isn't the one with snakes for hair. It's the one holding the mirror.